Doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians or the mob say. Doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation was founded on one principle above all else: the requirement that we stand for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree next to the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move. Welcome, everybody, to another comic book review. Today, we'll be covering. It might be a little late to the game because of it was already covered in the Falcon. Well, touched on in Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, which I did a spoiler review of up on the channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl, and it brings up about Marvel's first black Captain America, Isaiah Bradley. And it was like the show did despite some people's issues with it, when it hit, it definitely hit. And when they covered like Isaiah Bradley, the despite America's shady ass fucking past when it comes to what they did to black people, this just like they managed to top themselves, and they covered up the fact that, because for the longest time we thought like the super soldier serum only successfully worked on Steve Rogers because he had something special within him that, like as Erskine pointed out, if you watch the Captain America movie, the serum makes an already good man a great man. And they managed to, at least while Cap, after he got his serum and he's off doing his thing in WW2, on some other part in the war, not unlike the Tuskegee Airmen, these racist military officials, 3, 4 in particular, was running pretty much experiments on black soldiers to try to pretty much use them as guinea pigs to try to hopefully replicate another Captain America to fight on two fronts, but only one in their eyes is disposable. They all were in general disposable because there's only a handful that worked, but there was deterioration. Because there's like a handful that like they say at the bare minimum they work 80% of the time with at least 4 of the guys, 70 to 80% effective with other guys, while Bradley had like a good 95 to 99% effectiveness, where he didn't end up dying, but there was still later in his life some minor drawbacks. The story starts off with Isaiah, back in the early 40s, hanging with his wife at the county fair, or this little section they carved out for the black people call, what do they call it, like Negro Week. Hell of a name, right? Can you imagine even like the crap? I'm pretty sure my father had to, because he was born in the '50s, so he was raised in like the '60s. Uh, 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 Pretty sure he started being like a teenager well into like mid '70s, but I'm pretty sure he saw his fair share of like racist crap. But my grandfather, I'm pretty sure, got like the worst of the worst, and further back, a lot of black people probably have. But he just it's one slice of equality they can feel like they get to carve out in this time period to where they can just feel like normal citizens. But despite this, they there's like a white guy who's like doing this is weird, like see this nearly naked white lady doing this thing is odd, but uh it's supposed to be like one of those sideshow kind of situations, but it was like you know so white women, but they didn't feel too comfortable having like black people auger them because you know you know they didn't feel comfortable with black people looking at them. And this obviously the guy on stage, this white guy on stage is whispering to like Isaiah, like despite Isaiah having the money to like take part into the activities, telling like sorry man, it's not me, but the girls, they don't like being looked at and woo woo. And Isaiah is like uh he always liked to stand up for what's right. He had that kind of Captain America gumption, the Steve Rogers kind of gumption. And like he coming home to his parents one night, obviously getting into a fight. He no stranger to go to like protesting, and try to like fight for equality for black and Jewish people, despite uh, his mother's protests. Uh, One time he got to it got to the point where he was protesting against like the war, and he got himself arrested, and then judge offered him like a decision, which you usually typically see in like certain movies depicting around like maybe not in this time period, but like giving like prisoners or at least people in custody ultimatums: either serve for the country or go to prison. So he chose to serve for his country. All the while, you also meet with this sergeant uh, who like hates to be called him Black Cap because he was in like he rose through the ranks during the First World War, obviously, but obviously he was like kind of battled hardened and like seen some stuff, and doesn't like to be referred to as Black Cap because they think like Cap doesn't care, and like like he's doing this thing, and it's like they don't think like, oh, like he doesn't care, like it's we're doing our thing, we have to face facts. And like his other people was like I just want kill some white folks, and it's like the only time you get to killing white folks is other white folks allow you to. So it's very hard for obviously for a lot of people. And now when full blown war is taking place, where like Japanese bombing uh you know uh areas in the US, it signals uh to the US that we have to take part in this war. So Isaiah says goodbye to his wife, who's pregnant with their unborn daughter, and the start of 1942. Now they all are privates, at this camp Cathcart in Mississippi, and of course, they got the black people like cleaning out the latrines and all this other stuff, uh, and they still, catching hell from all this like racist white people. And this is where uh, this major of this camp is again who's talking to these two. Well, at least one of them is a scientist, and the other is some kind of agent who's given like as much as some stuff that you have to tell them is pretty classified. They tell them what they can, but they basically want to try to use black people to guinea pigs in this replication of the super soldiers project. And then, they don't care about, because they rather utilize it on these black people as guinea pigs rather than endangering the pure white people. So while getting this done, they killed the major after after this Colonel Walker Price comes in and like pretty much relieves the major of his duties, because they trying to like this agent and the scientist working alongside this colonel who just showed up and like, okay, we'll handle things my way without any kind of oversight or any kind of chances of getting in trouble, as little they probably would have gotten. They want to avoid this kind of scrutiny altogether. So they end up just right in front of all these black troops, shooting this major dead, cleaning out the body, and like telling this slimy dwarfy short round lieutenant, completely like racist as all get out, and corralling every black troop as they can to this other base, while folks back home, any familial connections they have, they get these letters. Typically you get these when like there's a soldier they know killed in action, but it's all a farce. So they had this classified location where they run all these experiments, and it's just horrific. Everyone just ends up turned to like just all but muscle, and then pops in into like just spaghetti sauce all over the place. You know what I mean? So now at this point, is only like 5 guys out of the entire, including Isaiah Bradley and the Sarge, is the only one who probably had like at least something to avoid immediate death. But back at home, Faith, Isaiah's wife, doesn't believe for 1 second her husband is dead, because they getting these relatives burnt corpses, thinking like, oh, it's a closed casket typically, but if they in case they see it, they can just saying like, oh, it was like a explosion, so it's like burned beyond recognition, so they can't say otherwise. But she knows uh her husband, and it's like this ain't him. Like this is like clearly a farce. What the hell is going on? Uh, Meanwhile, Isaiah's father, completely distraught, obviously, shoots his sleeping wife and shoots himself for just distraught over thinking they lost their son. Uh, but then one of them, uh, is I think his name, Dave. Uh, he's like getting like cold sweats. He's you know you know in bed, and it's like he's just like catching high fevers. But all the while he's hallucinating images of his obviously African ancestors looking, down on him, holding out their hand, and he ends up, at the very least, passing away in his sleep to the other's dread. But to be frank, he probably, got off better than like the previous other guys who just exploded violently. But it's it's like a tough thing. It's like a tough thing obviously to watch, and it's just like hurts me personally as a black man just seeing this. But it's like it's marking of a great story, and obviously highly recommend uh, uh, reading it. Not a fan of the artwork though. Got to point that out. Um, but while they're on their little mission, they're taking down a lot of Nazis in the process, and a couple of them get you know of the Silver Surfers get obviously killed from like usually from explosions because it probably take a lot to take them down. Uh, so now only three are left, and they discovered that the Nazi was carrying like medicine, and it's like they they're taking down a battalion of troopers that's trying to, despite them being Nazis, they weren't imminent threats. They were carrying medical supplies to heal their sick and wounded. It's not, I think it's kind of like, I don't know what like the terminology will be, but it's kind of like the rules of engagement or something like that, where it's like it's kicking people while they're down kind of situation, or it's like unfair battle, like no honor in it kind of situation. And in the process, they lost a couple of their guys, doing something that they don't feel right about. The funny thing is, the next day you see like, because Isaiah is enamored with the Captain America comics, which, you know, in reality, the actual 40s, like Stan Lee actually made comics, typically Captain America, to help with like the war effort and keep up morale and all the other stuff. And Captain America, huge inspiration for a lot of people, even to this day. Uh, but then like Merrick comes in antagonizing uh uh, one of the three guys, Maurice, his super soldier serum, like, his like body chemistry, because he's getting all riled up, can't, because I guess typically in those days you usually have to like learn to kind of pick your battles and keep that, because you can't just go off uh whatever, even though it's the right thing to do, especially when you have like a racist antagonizing you and saying all this awful crap. He just loses it and, beats the hell out of Merritt. But while Sarge and Isaiah is trying to hold Maurice down, he throws Isaiah over the ledge, which only knocks him unconscious, thankfully. But he ends up in a blind rage killing the Sarge. Uh, but then he ended up getting like uh, uh, done in by Merritt in the process. So it was only Isaiah left, which now this colonel's pretty much gonna utilize him as like, okay, your friends cocked it up, so now we're gonna have to use you. Was pretty much an obviously a suicide mission, because since Cap is the one that's not gonna be doing this, who we believe who's gonna handle that a whole lot better, we gonna send you to in this Nazi occupied camp. It's called like Schwarzschild in Germany. I'm probably mispronouncing that. This is in October of 1942 at this point. And he ends up taking a spare Captain America outfit to wear to jump into this fray. All the while he's like, stealthily taking down Nazis, brutal fashion. Something because he's a different kind of Captain America, and it's like, just like Falcon, he handles being Captain America in his own way. They don't have to do it the way Steve Rogers, does it. Steve Rogers does it in his own way. Everybody who took up the mantle of Captain America had to learn to like handle being Captain America in their own way, but also still respecting the mantle at the same time. All while Bradley is sabotaging his camp, setting off explosives, destroying like all kinds of stuff that the Nazis could use, he witnesses the Nazis doing something just as horrific as the U.S. military experimenting on, while the U.S. is experimenting on Black Americans, the Nazis was experimenting on Black Germans, or whoever they find like Black people, and probably Jewish people or gay people, whoever like they didn't view as pure Aryan blood, and they put body parts in specimen jars and stacking that bodies, obviously marking their arms with like numbers and stuff, typically what you see in like Holocaust documentaries and movies. It is a grotesque sight, and this obviously they even experiment on kids, and it's like Isaiah just like obviously distraught and he's like, I'm burning this whole entire place to the fucking ground. But he managed to find at least some survivors, but while he thinking he's leading them into some kind of safe house, he ends up inadvertently leading into like a gas chamber where the Nazis turn those things on. Thanks to the super soldier serum, Isaiah just managed to puke, but he didn't die. Which he feels like, he failed that. And all the while, this tale is being told by Faith to Steve Rogers. Uh, a few days ago, uh, he uh, 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 he was being he was talking to a very old Merritt, obviously in prison. According to Cap, he uh, charged for like murdering a federal agent, conspiracy to commit acts of domestic terrorism, gun running, money laundering, racketeering, arson, and in the commission of hate crimes. Obviously, also kidnapping, selling ecstasy and methamphetamines to minors outside a chain of comic shops. For God's sake, this guy's a Cap mentions like, you're a piece of work, and like this racist assholes. I'm like, oh, the Fed set me up for those drug charges. It's like my stuff is pure. I was like, God, you got no sense of whatever. Uh, uh, then after like just like a minute talking with this guy, Cap was like, I remember you now. Because it's like it's certain like Batman, Captain America, Superman. It's like, and like Supergirl, probably most Kryptonians. It's like one of those rare few heroes that there's super abilities grant them like certain capabilities when it comes to memory. But it took him a minute. But Cap remembers passing by this guy on one of his tours, and he noticed, it was like during the moment where he's like going into the experiment to get the serum, and he passed by this guy, and it was right around the same time when that Hydra spy ends up killing Erskine. But before that, he noticed that Merritt darted out of there before things went down, and Erskine got murdered. Realizing, Merritt had a hand in like a firebomb in like the Doc's lab, burning any kind of records, for anybody to try to, at least help facilitate with the replication of the super social serum, where Erskine was the only one who managed to crack that kind of code. Uh, and they're not the only two there. There's also a special agent, Spinrad, this black German man who pulls out some files and of pictures they found in like a secret room where Merritt kept an old Captain America gear that Isaiah had worn while he was in that mission, along with other Nazi paraphernalia, because he was like this guy, secret Nazi. Isaiah, in the meantime, you get like another flashback of Isaiah being held captive and questioned by Hitler himself. Of course, Hitler's trying to like sway him on his side by, oh, America, treated you and your people so harshly. You work for our side, and we will make sure your people are free. And Isaiah wasn't buying that crap because, you know, Hitler is probably the closest thing to the devil walking on earth as any person in history. Uh, but uh, since this wasn't working, uh, 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 they decided to like send him back, you know, beat him up, uh, uh, but they and they well they probably gonna send him back in a body bag, but uh, luckily he was saved by some other black Germans who were like fighting for the Allies over the German side of things. All the while, Merritt is telling Cap about uh, the first black Captain America, which stunned Rogers because nobody told him anything about this. It was a complete massive cover up. Cap is obviously disgusted of what is done to this man, and how he was pretty much exploiting everybody he was fought alongside with, his brothers in arms, all massacred pretty much by the very government that's supposed to uh, treat them as Americans through and through, or just at the very least people through and through. So uh, and then like as Cap decides to sniff out some evidence on where to find Bradley after the whole deal, you'll find out what happened. This little shit of a person, Mary, got the nerve to like stop Kevin and ask him for an autograph because he's like his biggest fan. Kevin's, leave out the door. It's like, rotten traitor. But one of the guys that helped Isaiah escape was the grandfather of this agent. Well, lucky coincidence. Then, a couple of days after that little investigation, or at least interrogation, as I say, Cap meets up with the colonel, who's now a little older man. He's still like fit, but he has some words with him. After trying to get a hold of him, because who can say no to meeting Captain America? But he didn't realize what it was the situation about. Obviously, Cap is just like, it's rare to see like Cap angry, but he is just like, you can see in his face in certain panels, he is seething with fucking rage about what the government and these guys in particular did to this man. And he's just questioning him, like I know about the project. Just explain yourself. What like how'd you end up running Cork International? He explained about the scientist is working from at the time. He had relations well, who's like uh, I think it was like related, maybe cousins to Erskine in some way. No, it's just like yeah, man. It was just like two sons. One uh that was working with the Germans, and the other guy uh it was working with them. So might be screwing that up because gonna get all these names mixed up. Um, yeah, it wasn't like Erskine. I keep screwing up because Reinstein is the scientist that was working with the agent and this colonel back in '42 with like getting all those black people rounded up, and Calkin International was like a relations of this guy who yeah you know facilitated all this. Uh, yeah, it was before like the Nazis came into power and everything like that. It was just German government pretty much trying to work on the same serum, but obviously it failed for them, but managed to work for the U.S. Uh, uh, so that international, there's that base that was classified that Bradley was supposed to be taken down, where like he inadvertently failed and well at least failed in saving the black people he found, but he just all they care about is him succeeding in everything else. Uh, so that way, because Cap wasn't there, they would have wanted Cap, but they got Bradley instead. Uh, uh, until this colonel's like, business, it's just business as usual for them. Uh, he still got like uh, uh, he got like the whole Cox interest, like all the money revenue. He managed to get a piece of that, uh, and like that built up over time. Him dealing with like the Cold War and everything like that. Uh, uh, but Cat pointed out like I got like plenty of back pay too. Significant amount considering that since like I got into the military and then it just increased over time. While I was frozen in the ice, and I settled in a precinct. I settled set myself up and bought uh, some uh, bought some shares myself. Uh, uh, he bought up like Caucasian National, and uh, like mentions like, oh, hey, I am going to have a meet. We're gonna have like a meeting at this the stockholders, and it's gonna be about you, and I'm gonna bring up your service record, and we're gonna find out all the dirty little things that you've done because it's no longer classified. Matter of fact, make sure it was declassified. So all your ill-gotten things, you'll be brought up on charges, serious charges. And like all that information he gathered is from Merritt, who pretty much was just a little weasel, and he did anything for autograph for Captain America. And Captain smiles like, oh, he's a fan. Sometime later, when Cap finally found Bradley's house, he met up with Faith to go talk with him, all while bringing up the fact that uh, you know the Colonel ended up shooting himself because you know he was going to bring everything about him was going to be brought to light, and he was going to be put in some serious jail time. Didn't want to have that. He offed himself. You see, like, her grandchildren, because since the serum managed to sterilize Bradley, they couldn't have any more children beyond the girl they already had before he was shipped off. And the daughter ended up, birthing a lot of like grandchildren. All of course different ages. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 children, all different ages, and she tells him about like how when the black Germans help give Isaiah safe passage thanks to the Allies back into America, American soldiers, at least the higher officials, thought he, because the whole situation at Kakanasha was like classified and like it's like a massive cover up for all intents and purposes. They consider him AWOL, so they put him in prison. They put Bradley in prison, at least until the last day of Eisenhower's position as president before Kennedy got brought in. He pardoned Isaiah. Prior to that, Faith only had like at least a few days out of the each year to see this guy. And, little by little, she knows like because of the serum, it was like, it was late in the game, but eventually it caused, and also in combination of him being put in solitary confinement for the bulk of his time, it caused him to like, lose a bit of his mental faculties. And it's just like it put, obviously, Cap in like a very like sad mood, and it's like he court-martialed the guy. On top of, they think he just blatantly just stole Cap's old costume. You want to point out to Cap, like, none of this is your fault. Clearly you didn't know any of this. Uh uh you know, at this point, Isaiah's mental faculties at this point in time is like that of a small child. Uh, it's just like, it's tough to see in any kind of situation when it comes to like older people in normal circumstances. But this is like a true blue hero, American hero that got done so fucking dirty. It is not to that extreme because he still got his mental faculties in the show, but by and large, they took some liberties because unlike in the comics, in the show, spoiler alert for the show, but his wife died while he was locked up, court-martialed, and like but it wasn't WW2, it was Vietnam, where like they tried out like a experiment on the super soldier serum on Isaiah. Him ended up going to toe with and nearly I think nearly like kind of stalemated the Winter Soldier when he was still brainwashed and sent out to do like an assassination, and Bradley ended up stopping him. And it's like he still, like, despite his service, he lost everything and no gratitude until, like, thanks to Sam Wilson, people know the name of Isaiah Bradley and his heroics by the end of the season. Cap goes into uh, Isaiah's room, and he sees all these pictures of all these famous, black people. And you see one of Stan Lee and Bono, Sonny and Cher. But like the book of it is like, famous black icons. Michael Jackson, Richard Pryor, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Muhammad Ali. Uh, a couple of people I don't recognize, right off the bat. But a couple of rappers and stuff like that. But let me blow this up here so you get a good look. You might recognize a fair bit. I think that's right here. What's his name? Flavor Flav in his group. It kind of looks as the clock thing. I just assume that's Flavor Flav. Uh, uh, James Brown. It's just like, he was looked at, because like in the shows, like they didn't want, obviously at that time, black people thinking like they got their own little hero, because I remember, I think it was like Sam who pointed out, was like, oh, like, of course they didn't want like my people to think we have like our own hero to look up to, because we got other ordinary men and women who are still heroes in our eyes, like Dr. King and stuff, and they can easily take them out. But it's like, look what they did to this man who can easily had like done something for us, and they just like covered it all up to avoid like any chance of any of that happening. It's just like tears Sam up inside, and like you feel it in this, issue, as Cap is looking on to Isaiah's family and just seeing like, these people deserve more. Thanks to like the massive service Captain America Isaiah Bradley has done for this country, and by extension the world, because you had two Captain Americas on the front lines, and one has been treated so horrifically, or at least thanklessly. Cap, introduces himself to Isaiah as like his daughter is helping him dress, and like I love like this look on Cap's face when he introduces himself, and just like this, I think when the art, it looks great when it's set on the present day, but when it's set in like in the past, it's like it's wonky looking, and I'm not a fan of that. But like here, Cap's just, he looks on, because like like Isaiah at this point is like just a mind of a child at this point, but Cap looks at him like in a combination of just utter respect, but also sadness. Is like I'm just how sorry Steve feels, and this man's like just like he's my brother in arms, and like he wasn't treated that way, and like he just introduced himself like, hello Isaiah, I'm Steve Rogers, and I'm really happy to meet you. I can't say enough how sorry I am for what happened to you and your family. I wish I could undo all the suffering you've gone through. If I could have taken your place, but all I can do is my duty, Isaiah, to you and everyone else. That's why I'm here. And he brings like uh, the costume Isaiah wore during his last mission, and this put a smile on Isaiah's face because like he's there but not all there, but he's there enough, and when he sees that, he's put smiles on his face, and he's in capital like, I believe this belongs to you. Uh, and like Faith takes a picture, uh, just to add to the massive collection of pictures that Isaiah have. He takes one with Steve Rogers, and of course Steve is nothing but like honored to do so. And and the story ends, and it's like I wanted to try to get enough because I'm doing like a good a few Captain America stories. Uh, 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 for like the month of July, but I want to get the jump on it really quick because I really want to get the jump on it. I really want to tell this story, but also I got a couple of Punisher stuff I want to do. But I also want to do the Thomas Jane Punisher film because it's 4th of July, honoring like independence. Should have done it on like Memorial Day, but this is just as good. But also, Captain America films as well. All coinciding with like the some good comics to review. But yeah, this is like a good read. I may not be a fan of some of the artwork here, but by God, the story is worth the read. Uh, you probably gonna, especially if you're black, you probably gotta stomach a couple of panels that's like, a bit rough, but definitely, really informs the severity of certain situations. But yeah, Captain America Truth, red, white, and black. You can look it up on like online. I usually read my comics on like the website readcomicsonline.com. I'm pretty sure it's on Comixology as well. Or you can buy the issue. For any kind of like website. More particular, support your comic book store. Like all my comics that I review, past, present, and future, support your comic book store. If you want to, especially if you want like a hard copy of it, if you're really a fan of the work, support your comic book store, buy it there. Especially after the pandemic, they definitely deserve like the help. But yeah, that's my review of this Captain America story. Next will be solely about Steve Rogers and also Sam Wilson, Captain America. But yeah, I will see you guys soon. Eventually, I'll come around whenever I finish the Steve Rogers story that I picked out, and I'll have it, up eventually. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you read Captain America Truth, let me know what you thought in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like. That help me with the algorithm and get more views, and so I can get more content out for you guys. But yeah, I will. This matter of fact, this is my second time reading this. The first time technically will be after the TV show of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I had to check out this comic. Personally, like, yeah, I did enjoy the story. Not one of my all-time favorite comics that I read, but it's still like mid-level of my favoritism. I wish the art was a little bit better, but still a great story. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Have a good week.